It was just after sunset when Michael locked his garden gate for the night. He lived alone in a small town on the edge of the woods, far from the busy cities of America. The sky had turned a deep orange, and the wind carried the soft scent of blooming flowers. Michael had always liked silence, spent most of his evenings watering his plants or sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee, but that night felt different. The air was heavy, as if something was watching. Then came the sound, a soft rustle, like someone walking through the tall grass behind his garden. Michael turned, his eyes narrowing. He picked up his flashlight and walked toward the sound. His boots crunched softly on the stone path as he reached the edge of the garden fence, and then he saw her. A woman? No, not quite a woman. Collapsed on the ground, her arms wrapped tightly around a small child. Her skin had a strange blue glow, and her hair shimmered like silver under the moonlight. She was breathing but weakly. The child in her arms was shaking and hiding its face. Michael froze. His heart raced. Was it some kind of costume? A trick? A movie shoot? But no one came this deep into the woods. He kneeled beside her and gently touched her shoulder. Her eyes opened slowly, large and glowing purple. She looked straight into his soul. "Please," she whispered, her voice dry and cracking, "don't let them take her." And then she fainted. Michael stood there, stunned. The child looked up at him, wide eyes, full of fear, and held on to the woman tighter. He didn't think. Michael scooped the woman up in his arms and told the child, "Come." Quickly, the child stood up, bare feet silent on the grass, and followed close. Inside the house, he cleared the couch and gently laid the woman down. The child stayed by her side, clutching her hand. Michael brought a blanket and covered them. Both his mind was spinning. Who were they? What did she mean by take her? And what was he supposed to do now? He tried to check for wounds but found something strange. The woman's body was warm but glowing faintly. Her breathing was uneven, and there was a long, thin scar running across her back. Not human, not stitched. It looked grown. The child reached out and touched Michael's arm. He looked down, surprised. The child spoke softly in broken English. She tired. No more run. Michael couldn't understand everything, but the fear in the child's voice was clear. He moved to the window and pulled the curtain aside. The street was empty, but he still felt the weight of something coming. A pressure building in the air. Like a storm before lightning, he turned back to them. The child was now holding a small glowing stone. It pulsed in rhythm with the woman's breath. Michael felt warmth from it, like it was alive. That's when he knew this was not a dream, this woman, his child. They were not from Earth, but they were here now in his home and his care. He knelt beside them. "What's your name?" he asked softly. The child blinked, then whispered, "Rhea." "And her Mara, my mama." Michael nodded slowly. He stood, walked to the door, and locked it tightly. Then he turned off all the lights. He didn't know who might come or what they wanted. But he had heard that voice, that fear, and he couldn't ignore it. He looked at the sleeping alien woman and her child on his couch. They had chosen his garden to collapse in, and he had made a silent choice the moment he picked her up. He was going to protect them, no matter who came, no matter what they were. Asterisk, at midnight. The woman still hadn't woken up. Michael sat near the couch, watching over her and the child, Rhea. The only light in the room came from the soft blue glow of the woman's skin. It shimmered gently with every breath she took. Like light dancing on water, Rhea had fallen asleep holding her mother's hand. But her small body trembled now and then, not from cold, but fear. Michael didn't sleep. He couldn't. Questions raced in his mind like wildfire. Who were they? Where did they come from? What did she mean by "don't let them take her"? Suddenly the woman stirred. Her eyes opened, sharp, alert, and glowing. She sat up fast, like a soldier waking from battle, arms wrapping around Rhea. Her hand glowed bright for a moment, forming a light blade from her palm. Michael didn't move. He simply raised both his hands. "You're safe here," said his voice calm. The woman looked at him, her breathing fast. Her eyes flicked between his face, the locked doors, and the quiet child beside her. "I found you in my garden," Michael continued. "You fainted, you said. Not to let them take her." The light in her hand flickered, then faded. Rhea opened her eyes and cried out, "Mama!" The woman softened instantly. She hugged the child close, whispering something in a language Michael didn't understand. Then she looked back at him. "Why help us?" she asked slowly, her accent thick but words clear. Michael shrugged. "Because you needed it." She stared at him for a long time, like she was searching for a lie. But there was none. Finally, she spoke again. "My name is Mara, from planet Urix. Rhea is my daughter." "And yours?" Michael froze. He blinked. "What?" She nodded once. "We met 6 cycles ago, on the moon station. You don't remember. It was one night, but Rhea was made." Sat down, hard. His mind couldn't keep up. "A moon station?" 6 cycles. His daughter tried to remember, but it was like a fog in his mind. He had worked on a lunar mining site once, years ago. Before coming back to Earth, there had been a party, music, laughter, and faces, some not human, and one woman with glowing skin. Michael stared at Rhea. Her features were soft, but now he could see it. Her nose, her jaw, her eyes, she looked like him. I didn't know," he said, voice low. "We were never meant to return," Mara whispered. "But they found us. The Empire, they say. Hybrid children are dangerous. They want her." "Why?" Michael asked, heart pounding. Mare placed her hand on Rhea's chest. "She carries both. Human soul, Urixian power. That mix scares them. It threatens their control." Michael looked at the child, who stared back at him now, not with fear, but curiosity. "Dad," she said softly, testing the word. He felt something heavy twist in his chest. "Yes," he answered, "I'm here." A sudden, sharp noise broke the moment. Outside, a hum in the air. Michael ran to the window and pulled the curtain slightly. A black drone hovered above the street. No sound. No light. Just a dark eye scanning the ground. He turned quickly. "We have to hide you now," Mara stood, still weak, but alert. "They've found us again." Michael grabbed a blanket and threw it over her and Rhea. "Basement. Come on." He led them to the back, opened a hidden door under the kitchen rug, and helped them down the narrow wooden stairs. The basement was cold and dusty, but safe for now. He handed Mara a flashlight. "Stay quiet, I'll handle it." "No," she said firmly, placing her hand on his. "You are not alone anymore." Then something strange happened. She reached out, touched his forehead, and whispered something. Michael blinked as his vision flashed. For a split second he saw stars, fire, warships, and himself, standing beside Mara, holding Rhea in his arms, on another world. Then it was gone. He gasped, falling to one knee. "What was that?" Mara looked down at him. "A memory," she whispered. "Future." Michael woke up on the kitchen floor with dried blood on his nose. The house was silent. Something felt wrong, like the air had shifted. The wind outside was gone. No birds, no night bugs. Just silence so deep it pressed against the walls. Then he heard it click, click. Footsteps, heavy boots on gravel. Michael pulled himself up and peeked through the front window. 4 black cars were parked outside his home. Sleek, no logos, no plates. Their engines didn't hum. They purred low, like hungry animals waiting to strike. Men in dark suits stepped out. They wore glasses even though the sun hadn't risen yet. Their faces didn't smile. Their hands didn't move much. One had something on their belts, strange devices. Glowing blue, Michael's breath caught. They were not normal. He rushed back to the kitchen, grabbed the broom, flipped it over, and pulled out a hidden pistol taped inside the shaft. He hadn't touched it in years, but tonight it felt right. Down in the basement, Mara sat quietly, Rhea asleep in her lap. The stone around Mara's neck glowed softly, casting dim light on the cold stone walls. "They're here," Michael whispered as he entered. Mara nodded. "I know, government," he asked. She shook her head. "Worse. Human skin, Alien minds. They serve the collectors. They want hybrids, for experiments, for breeding. Michael didn't speak. His fists tightened. Above them the front door creaked open. Boots stepped inside. A voice echoed flat and robotic. Michael Cross, you are harboring illegal life forms. Step out and surrender them. Michael stared at Mara. They know my name. They have your blood, she replied. From Rhea, his chest tightened. He turned and crept back up the stairs, slow and silent. Through the thin slit in the pantry door, he watched them. The men didn't search like humans. They didn't speak or gesture. They moved in perfect lines. Two went to the hallway. One scanned the walls with a long needle-shaped scanner. The last stood still, head tilting as if smelling the air. Michael moved to the living room. One wrong step. The floorboard creaked. The man turned. Target confirmed. The voice buzzed. Michael ran. Laser light cracked behind him, burning the wall just inches from his head. He dove over the couch and fired once, not at them, but at the ceiling light above. Glass exploded. Darkness returned. Michael knew his house better than they did. He slipped into the back hall and hit the hidden latch behind the coat rack. A wooden panel opened. Inside, an old ladder led to the attic. He climbed fast and pulled the panel shut just as footsteps filled the hallway. Below, he heard them talking, but it wasn't English. It wasn't even words. More like metal scraping inside a machine than a cold, slow voice translated. The mother is below. The child is the seed. We must retrieve. Michael's blood froze. They were after Rhea, and they didn't care about killing anyone in the way. He tapped on the attic floor, a special signal. 2 knocks. Pause. Then 1. Below, Mara's eyes opened. She stood, placing Rhea behind a crate. Then she touched the stone at her neck. Blue fire lit her arms. She was ready. Michael climbed down and met her by the basement door. We fight. She nodded. You ever used human bullets before? No, but I'll try. They moved like shadows. Quiet but ready. The men in suits had spread out, scanning, searching. Hunting ones stood by the kitchen window when Mara stepped out. He raised his scanner, but she moved faster. A blast of blue energy hit his chest and sent him flying through. The wall of the house shook. Michael fired at the next 2. The bullet struck metal and sparks flew out. Armor, he growled. Mara raised both hands, then burn it. Blue fire wrapped her body like armor. Her eyes blazed as she charged. Her fists became bright hammers of heat. She punched one of the men, and he shattered like glass, breaking into 1,000 sparks. But there were more. Too many, Michael yelled. Get Rhea out, I'll hold them. Mara turned. We run together. Suddenly, Rhea ran into the room crying. The smallest of the men in black reached for her before Michael could shoot. Mara dove and pulled the child close. But something strange happened. Rhea touched the man, and he stopped, frozen eyes flickering. Then he collapsed as if something inside him just died. Michael ran to them. What did she do? Mara looked at her daughter, stunned. She woke him up. What? He was programmed, controlled, but her touch broke it. They stared at Rhea. The child was shaking, but her eyes glowed. One human brown, the other alien purple. She's not just a hybrid, Mara whispered. She's something new. And now, the enemy would stop at nothing to take her. Asterisk, the night had burned into morning. But the sky stayed dark with clouds. Smoke drifted from Michael's broken windows. His house had survived, but barely. The strange men in suits were gone, dead or vanished. One had turned into dust when Mara struck him. Another crumbled after Rhea touched his face. The others had melted into shadows, fleeing into the forest like ghosts. But Michael's hands still shook. Not from fear, from truth. A woman who now sat at his kitchen table was not just an alien, she was a warrior, a mother, and maybe something more. Her skin still glowed faintly. Her silver hair was damp with sweat. Rhea sat on her lap, quietly drawing shapes into the steam on a cracked teacup. Michael stood at the sink, staring into his own reflection in the broken window. She said, "She's mine," he whispered to himself. Mara looked up. "I didn't want to return to you this way." He turned, eyes heavy. "Then why did you?" She took a deep breath and slowly unzipped the top of her tunic. Michael quickly looked away, embarrassed, until she turned her back to him. "I want you to see," she said. Long, sharp scars ran across her back in a perfect pattern, like someone had carved symbols into her skin. Each scar shimmered faintly, as if it still remembered pain. "They did this to me," she said. "You're kind, but not humans like you." Michael stepped closer, confused. "After I left Earth, after our night I was taken," she continued, "by those men, the collectors. They call themselves human, but their minds are linked to something deeper, something older." Michael listened, every word carving a new scar inside him. They saw I was carrying a child, a hybrid. You were the father, and that made her dangerous in their eyes. So they cut me, tested me, tried to make me forget. "Forget what?" Michael asked softly. Mara turned and looked into his eyes. "Who I was, who you were to me, and who Rhea was meant to be." She reached into her side pouch and pulled out a small device. It looked like a crystal, but hummed like a machine. When she pressed it, a hologram appeared, a vision of a strange lab filled with machines, cages, and hundreds of children. Some were crying, some were floating, some were gone. "They breed hybrids," she whispered. "Use them to power ships, break codes, even predict future wars." Michael's stomach turned. "They think emotion is a virus," she continued. "But Rhea feels. She remembers. She learns. That's why she's different." Michael stared at the little girl. She had drawn a picture on the cup now, a flower glowing softly in the steam. "She's more than just both of us," he said. Quietly, Mara nodded. "She's hope. Hope is dangerous to those who only control." Suddenly, the power cut out. The room went black. Michael moved fast, pulling the pistol from his pocket. Mara stood up, her glow returning slowly. But then came a voice, not from the door, not from outside, from inside their heads. "We gave you warning." Disobeyed. "The seed must be delivered," Rhea cried out, covering her ears. Mara shouted back, "Leave us!" Too late. The crystal device in her hand shattered. The hologram died, and the room grew colder. Michael grabbed Rhea and held her tight. "What do they mean by seed?" he asked. Mara's voice was firm. "She can unlock things no machine can, in minds, in time. They want to use her to rewrite fate." Michael couldn't breathe. His daughter was a key, and the enemy was already turning. The lock suddenly, a small glowing line appeared on Rhea's palm. She looked down at it and whispered, "It's opening." "What's opening?" Michael asked. She looked at him with her mismatched eyes and said, "The door, to where I came from." Before anyone could stop it, the floor beneath them shimmered, then cracked, and a soft hum began like a machine starting deep under the earth. Mara pulled Michael close. "They planted a gate under your land, years ago, before she was born." "It reacts only to her blood." "You mean," Michael started. "Yes." Mara said, "They never lost us. They were waiting." And now the ground was waking up. The ground was glowing. Thin cracks of blue light spread across the wooden floor like veins. The air buzzed, sharp like broken wires. Mara grabbed Rhea tight. Michael backed away, heart pounding, as the center of the kitchen began to sink. Not break, but dissolve, turning into dust, shaped by energy. A low, hollow sound came from deep below. Like a door being forced open after centuries, Michael shouted, "Basement!" Now they rushed down, the child clutching her mother.
Aris.
Body glowed brighter than before, her energy rising to shield Rhea. The humming followed them down. The floor above no longer existed, just a circle of swirling blue light. "It's a portal," Mara said, half-grown, a trap. Michael reached for the emergency backpack he kept by the water tank. He tossed Mara a coat and handed Rhea. A small flashlight. "We're not staying here," he said. "Where?" she asked, holding the shivering child. "The orchard," Mara blinked. "Trees will not stop them." Michael gave her a grim smile. "No, but what's under them might." He opened the hidden cellar door behind the old shelves. A narrow tunnel led into the earth, lit by old yellow bulbs. "My granddad was paranoid," Michael explained. "He built escape routes in case of war." "In case of aliens?" Mara asked. Michael looked back at her. I guess he was ahead of his time. They moved fast through the narrow tunnel. Rhea held her father's hand now. Her little fingers were cold, but her eyes were calm, glowing softly, like she was guiding them. Behind them, sound grew louder. The hum became a howl. Whatever was coming through the portal, it wasn't human. They burst out of a trapdoor, hidden beneath a fallen tree at the edge of the orchard. Moonlight washed over long rows of apple trees. It was peaceful, too peaceful. Michael led them through the orchard. "There's a shack in the north field," he said. "Signal blocked. Used to be a storm shelter." They ran but halfway. Through, Mara stopped. Rhea froze too. "What is it?" Michael whispered. Mayra looked up. "They're already here." From the darkness between the trees, shadows moved. Not walking, floating, tall. Thin figures made of dark light with silver. Masks that hid their faces. Their arms didn't move. Their feet didn't touch the ground. But their eyes red lights under the masks, locked onto Rhea. They spoke without mouths. "Return the seed." Michael stepped forward. "You'll have to go through me." "That was always the plan, Colin." Suddenly, a blast of dark energy flew from one of the creatures. Mara leaped in front, absorbing the blow with a shield of blue fire. She staggered, but stayed on her feet. Michael fired 3. Bullets, nothing. They passed right through the floating figures like smoke. Rhea screamed, but her scream wasn't fear. It was power. The ground shook. Light burst from her hands. The nearest shadow was flung backward into the trees. Leaves exploded in every direction. Mara stared at Rhea, stunned. "She's awakened. Too soon. What does that mean?" Michael shouted. "It means," Mara said, standing tall, "we run." She grabbed Michael's hand. Michael grabbed Rhea's, and they ran as fast as they could. Behind them, the shadows gave chase, gliding silently but quickly through the trees. Rhea turned once and raised her hand. The flashlight she held exploded into a pulse of light that blinded the shadows. For a moment, they reached the shack. Michael threw open the steel door. Inside was a dusty but strong bunker, metal-lined, underground. Built like a forgotten war shelter, he sealed the door and locked the latch as Mara touched the walls. "They can't hear us now. The metal is old, but pure." Michael collapsed. To the floor, breathing hard. Mara held Rhea close. She used her power without command. "That means it's growing fast." Michael looked at his daughter. She wasn't just glowing now. She was lit from within, like a star wrapped in skin. "What do we do now?" he asked. Mara leaned against the cold wall. She needs to remember who she is before they erase her. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, a new fear took root. It wasn't just the collectors. Anymore, something far older was coming, and Rhea was the light that could wake it. Michael was still catching his breath, sitting on the cold bunker floor. When Mara gently placed Rhea down on the old army cot, the little girl had fallen asleep with her hand glowing softly against her chest. The light was fading now, slowly returning to normal. But Michael could still feel its warmth in the room, not from fear, not from power, but from something alive, something pure. His daughter. He looked over at Mara, who stood near the far wall, her arms crossed, her eyes scanning the metal ceiling. Her silver hair fell over her shoulder like silk. Her skin glowed faintly even in the dark. He walked toward her. "You haven't asked," she said softly. "About what?" "Why I called you her father." Michael paused. "I believed you," he said. "I didn't understand it at first, but now I can see it in her eyes." Mara finally looked at him. "You were kind to me," she whispered. On that moon station, I was alone, hiding. You didn't ask questions. You just danced with me." Michael smiled faintly. "I don't remember dancing." "I do," she said, and her lips curved into the smallest smile. "You said I moved like music," he chuckled. "I said that. You were drunk." They both laughed quietly, not too loud to wake Rhea. Then came the silence, the kind that holds. Two people close without touching? Michael spoke first. "Why didn't you come back sooner?" "I was taken," Mara said. "Before I even knew I was carrying her. The collectors tracked me, locked me away. I escaped. Barely. Every moment. Since I've been running." He looked at her scars again. They weren't just wounds. They were maps. A history of pain and survival carved into her body. "I'm sorry," he said. She stepped closer. "You protected us," she said. "You didn't even know me, but you fought for me again." Michael shook his head. "It wasn't a choice. It just felt right." Kuna touched his face gently. "And that is why I chose you." He stared at her, heart racing. "You chose me?" She nodded. "Among all the humans I saw during my missions, loud, angry, greedy, you were different. You were quiet, you listened, you were warm." Her hand rested over his chest. "Even now I can feel it, the same warmth." Michael placed his hand on hers. "I didn't think I'd ever feel needed again," he whispered. "Not since my brother died. I've just been ... existing." "You're more than that," she said. "You are her father, my bondmate." His heart skipped. Bondmate. In my culture, it means one chosen by both heart and soul. Not forced, not arranged, chosen freely, even across stars. He stared at her in disbelief. "Mate," she smiled, then slowly leaned her forehead against his. "Yes, human, and I never stopped thinking of you as mine." He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, peace washed over him. Not the kind that comes from silence, but from connection, from family. But then Rhea stirred in her sleep. She cried out once. Mara rushed to her side. Rhea's glow had returned brighter, stronger, flickering like a fire out of control. Michael saw symbols appear across the child's arms, glowing runes that pulsed with each breath. "What's happening?" he asked. "She's entering the next phase," Mara said. "The power inside her is awakening too fast." Michael kneeled beside her. "Can we stop it?" Mara shook her head. "No, but we can guide it, together." Michael looked at his daughter, glowing like a star. Then back at Mara, the warrior who had crossed galaxies for him. "I'm ready," he said. "For all of it." Mara looked into his eyes and whispered, "Then hold her." He lifted Rhea in his arms. She was burning with energy, but his touch calmed her. The light flickered, slowed, then softened. Mara placed her hands over Rhea's head and began to speak, not in English, but in the tongue of her people. The bunker walls echoed with strange beauty. It felt like a song from long ago, and slowly, Rhea's breathing calmed. The glow faded. She rested peacefully again. Michael held her close. Mara sat beside him, her hand on his. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The bond had already formed. And outside the bunker, far above them, something ancient stirred beneath the soil, watching, waiting, because the light of the child had been seen across the stars, and war was coming. Before the sun rose, the sky changed. It didn't lighten. It turned red. Clouds twisted like fire above the orchard. The wind carried a strange sound, not thunder, not engines, but a pulse. A deep, steady beat, like the heartbeat of something. Waking from a long, cold sleep, Michael opened the bunker door slowly. The trees outside were swaying hard. The air felt charged, like lightning was about to strike every inch of ground. Mara stood behind him, arms crossed, her face calm, but alert. "They're coming," she said. He looked up. "From the portal?" "No," she answered. "From the sky." Michael. Squinted. High above, three dark shapes were slowly descending. It's not planes, not helicopters. It's massive ships, black, silent, shaped like knives. Splitting the clouds open, he stepped back into the bunker. They found her. Mara nodded. They always do in the end. He turned toward Rhea. She stood near the table, her small fingers tracing a glowing map in the dust. Symbols moved beneath her touch. They weren't random, they were coordinates. She's not afraid, Michael whispered. She's never been, Mara said. The rumble outside grew louder. Then came the voice. Not from a speaker. Not from inside, it filled the air like pressure. Bring forth the seed. The time has come. She belongs to the origin, Michael shouted. She belongs to us. The voice answered coldly. Then you will be erased with her. Mara stepped forward. Not without a fight. Rhea looked up at her mother. Can I do it now? Mara blinked. Do what? The thing you showed me. The light. Michael stepped closer. Rhea, what light? The child looked at them both, calm and steady. Can show them what they fear? She walked to the center of the room, lifted both hands, closed her eyes. The ground trembled. The metal walls of the bunker shimmered. Mayer gasped. She's not channeling me. She's channeling you. Michael's heart stopped. But I don't have powers. You have something greater, Mara said. Free will. Above them, the ships landed. Trees shattered, wind roared, and the earth shook. Michael opened the door again, and there she stood, Rhea. Glowing bright, her skin now mixed with golden light, her eyes filled with starlight. He stepped beside her. Mayar, on her other side. The three of them walked out, standing together beneath the red sky. The first of the dark figures emerged, armored, tall, cold. Their hands glowed with weapons, not of this world. Behind them stood the Supreme Collector, wrapped in shadows, its mask shaped like a crown. Surrender the seed. Final warning. Michael stepped forward. No. The Collector raised its hand. Energy burst from its palm, but it stopped. Frozen. In the air, Rhea had lifted her own hand. The blast hung in place, trapped like a picture in time. Then she spoke. Not loudly, not in fear. In truth, you can't take me, she said. Because I already chose. Chose what? Shadow hissed. Rhea turned and pointed at her parents. Him, her, this world. The energy exploded backward, not forward, smashing into the Collectors. Their armor cracked, their shadows split, their machines sparked. The other ships began to rise. Sensing danger, but it was too late. Rhea was floating now, above the trees. Her arms open, her light spreading across the sky like dawn. She wasn't just a child. She was a message, a line the enemy could never cross. Michael shielded his eyes, watching. As the Collectors turned and fled, not from weapons, but from something far worse. Hope they vanished into the sky, swallowed by their own portal. Silence returned, the trees stilled, the light faded, and Rhea floated gently back into Mara's arms. Michael rushed to them both. Holding them close, they were safe. Together, the orchard was quiet again. Later that night, they sat under the stars, no longer hiding, no longer running. Mara rested her head on Michael's shoulder. She saved the world, he whispered. Mara smiled. No. She reminded it what love looks like. Rhea lay in the grass, pointing at constellations, naming them in both languages, English and Euryxian. Michael looked at her and said, Whatever comes next, we face it as one. Mara took his hand. One family, she said. Against the world, he replied. And in that moment, the stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter, because the universe had seen something. Rare, not war, not power, but something even stronger. Human who chose love, an alien who chose hope, and a child who changed everything.